I suppose like every expectant father, I was, totally over the moon. I felt really like the universe, like just without sounding soppy, like shifted a little bit. I was like, oh, I'm actually going to be a father. We found out it was a girl, and to be honest with you, I did want a little girl, and yeah, I was just over the moon. I had the scan and the picture, and had it up by my computer, and in work, I've seen it every day, and it was just every day, each day that went by, it just kind of dawned on me, you're going to be a father, and you know, you better like get it together now. After 5 years of her moaning about the cold, she actually got in the sea in British Bay while she was 8 months pregnant, because the temperatures were up at like 27, 28 degrees, and I couldn't believe it. And she had a great pregnancy. She really, 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 really enjoyed it. I could feel Isabella kicking. It was, she was never felt sick. It was very joyous. We got the test that they do from the hospital, in terms of, how is she healthy? And they said, look, everything indicates that she's absolutely perfect. There's no issues. She's not got anything that we can see. And they did the test for Down syndrome, and in that, without actually, doing the invasive test, which is actually potentially it can abort the baby. They said, look, they measured her neck and her nose and everything. Says, look, she's fine. She went into labour, and she was in labour, and because she was Spanish, and her English is grand now, but at the time her English wasn't great. The nurses were talking to her, and I was like translating, even though, it was pretty basic stuff, push, push, empuja, empuja, and come on, Pella, benga, benga, And I got to the stage, at one stage, I was saying benga, benga so much that one of the doctors came in and goes, what's all this benga, benga? They were trying to encourage her so much, and I was trying to encourage her. She turned around at one stage and said to me, this is not a rugby match, shut up. So I kind of had to just put a bit of a lid in it. It's a pretty kind of mind-blowing experience seeing a child being born, especially if you haven't seen it before. It just, I don't know how to describe it. All fathers out there that have seen it, and mothers obviously know, but it was pretty mind-blowing, and you're in a kind of state of ecstatic shock, I would describe it. Was for me, it was like, oh my God. And then they took her away from Pell, and they said, do you want to go with Pell or do you want to go with the baby? And, it's only a couple of feet. And I said, oh, I'll go with the baby. And they were cleaning her down, and then I just started to notice that they were a bit concerned. And literally, I'd say about less than 90 seconds after she was born, doctor came in. There was a bit of, they were cleaning her down, but she'd had a bit of trouble breathing. And this doctor came along to me, and she said to me, I think your baby has breathed in her embryonic fluid, and I think that we're going to have to put her in intensive care. I think your baby has a heart murmur, but I'm not sure. I'll have to get it checked. And I think your baby has Down syndrome. I think the only way to describe it is like you're standing in front of a 50-foot wave, and it just hits you, and just comes over you, and you're just kind of going around and around, and you're like in this turmoil where you can't actually believe this is really happening. That's internally. I just stood really still, and I said, why do you think that? And she said, well, she just explained the reasons. She said, look, there was a little bit of a irregularity on her heartbeat. She's having a bit of trouble breathing. She probably has a bit of embryonic fluid. And I said, why do you think she's got Down syndrome? And she said, look, some of her features, and she pointed out a couple of things. And I was like, okay. And my wife in the background, Pell, was going, is everything okay? And I said, yeah, everything's fine. We're just going to do some checks. So I was very unprepared. And I had been told that Isabella did not have Down syndrome. So it was a complete shock in that sense. So I found the words of the pediatrician were quite strange. She says, you and your wife have shown a lot of grace. So that kind of struck with me and resonated with me. And later that evening, there was a nurse there. And I asked her, why did the head pediatrician say that myself and Paula had grace? Because as far as I'm concerned, we were just quiet. And she said to me that, well, you know, a lot of people find it very hard to deal with the news that their child has been diagnosed with Down syndrome. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, you know, they actually sometimes reject the child. They sometimes go, no, that's not my baby. That can't be true. They become hysterical and, you know. So looking at that, I actually wouldn't judge those people in any way whatsoever. In any way. Because maybe on another given day, I could have had that reaction. I remember going outside and I was still kind of like a bit in a state of shock, and I just kind of, they were talking to Pell, they took the baby away, and I went outside and I was on a balcony, and I just kind of like had a little chat with myself, and I said, this is the moment in your life where you have to become a man now. This is the moment where you have to step up to the plate. This is the moment where you have to really keep it together, because this is a test, and it's a test to see if you're going to break or not. You have to be there for your wife, and you have to be there for your baby. And yet the first emotion that hit me was the protective emotion. Who'll look after her when I'm old? And then you're upset, and you're upset because so happy to have a child, so happy to have a daughter, but to think that there's going to be an issue that's going to affect her or rob her of a quality of life, rob her of any kind of joy, or rob her of anything, or there's, you know, made me upset for her. So it's this weird mix of emotions, and looking back, I kind of feel guilty that I even feel bad, you know, because it's you know, Isabella is the joy of my life, you know. It's amazing news that you're going to be a father, but it's not good news that your child has potentially life-threatening illness that can affect their quality of life in a very severe way. I was just a bit kind of, I say, concussed, having been concussed a few times. It was like, this isn't real. This is surreal. This is just, you know, can't really believe this. I remember actually I drove pretty much, can't remember if it was the first day or the second day, I drove straight to Down Syndrome Ireland, walked in and said, look, I've just got news, my child has Down syndrome. What do I do? Give me all the information you can give me. And I suppose there was a bit of me inside of me, you know, that kind of like, you know, be a man, sort things out, be pragmatic, doopy-doopy-doo, you know. While you're hurting, you know, you're hurting bad, like you're hurting very bad, because you have these expectations, and they're your expectations, you know. And then I was worried, I was extremely worried about Isabella, because she was in an intensive care box. I felt for Pell a lot because she was really struggling, you know. And at one stage, Isabella got upset, and, you know, she wanted to hold, Pell wanted to hold her, and they were like, no, she's in the incubator. She goes, just let me hold her for a little bit. And they let her hold her for, you know, 30 seconds, and she calmed down, and she was fine. And I really felt for Pell because, you know, she's such a good mother, and she's so much love in her heart for Isabella that I knew, however hard it was for me, it was harder for her. I did know that, because that bond that happens in the pregnancy and in the whole is not a bond a man can understand. But, you know, I know that love is, that connection is so deep. I just remember actually thinking, like, it doesn't matter who you are, what part of society you're from, whether you're a gazillionaire or you're, you know, it doesn't, in that place, when you're looking at your child in an intensive care unit, everybody's totally equal. There's nothing you can do. And there's almost this kind of like, you're looking at each other, you're just kind of like, you know, you're hoping the best for each other, you're hoping the best for your child. It's a very weird, strange place, I think, intensive care units in maternity hospitals. Because the most weakest people in society, the most vulnerable, are children. And newly born children, it doesn't get any more vulnerable than that. So you go through an initial shock, and you shed your tears, and you kind of just get on with it, and, you know, and then you start, you know, we start to really enjoy Isabella, but you're still digesting everything. And this is how I dealt with it. But everybody has a different way of dealing with it. I kind of basically played more rugby. I played more rugby and I worked harder, and I just kind of got the head down, and I didn't dwell too much, and I looked at all the positives, and I was just, everything's great and it's all amazing. It's great, it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great. Irish man, wipe it under the carpet, it's all fine. And I didn't go really drinking. I didn't, I just did what I had to do. And I was basically suppressing it and repressing my feelings. I went to the Web Summit in the RDS and paid astronomical money for my ticket, drove in, paid for my park, and the guy said, park over there. And he directed me, and I followed the car in front of me, and I parked kind of at the back of the pitch, where sometimes I've seen them do parking. Anyway, cut a long story short, went to the summit, enjoying it, got a phone call from Donnybrook Garda Station, move your car, it's in the wrong space. Came out, car was clamped, as the other cars that were there were clamped. And I'd been misguided into the place, it was a mistake. And I basically said, look, I came here to the RDS, I paid €1,000 for my ticket, I paid €15 for my car parking, I was directed to the wrong spot, I come out, I don't need this crap, I've got 20 people to pay, I've working, I've got stress, I've got this, that and the other, and my daughter I have a handicapped daughter. And it was just like, whoo. And I actually said those words. And I was just like, as I said it, I was like, I can't believe I just said that. They all kind of like stopped, because as I was saying it, I was getting really Vinnie Jones on it. They're all like, this guy's going to pop off, call the SWAT team. And I was actually in such an emotional state. I was just repressing everything. It was boiling out. I just popped out and I said those words. And then as I said it, I just kind of hung my head in shame. And I walked off, and I basically started like bawling my eyes out in a corner in the RTS. But before I said that, they all kind of stopped and went, oh my God, oh. And the boss kind of said, take the clamp off his car. Take it off his car, take the clamp off his car. And I just walked off in the corner. I didn't cry in front of them, but I walked in the corner, because I don't believe in crying. Walked off in the corner, and I literally broke down, bawling by myself, to myself. And the boss, he's the main manager of the RDS, he came over to me and he goes, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. No, are you okay? I'm fine. I was in bits, right? And I literally couldn't stop crying. And I hadn't cried that hard since maybe like the day after Isabella was born. I'd repressed it, and I couldn't stop. It just came out like a volcano. So I'm guided along like an old granny, right, bawling my eyes out, and as the clamper's taking off the clamp, and he's looking over at me, and I'm like bawling my eyes out. And he goes, now get in your car there, son. And he came back, right, and he brought me the Irish Times, a cup of tea, and a Mars bar. And that's one reason why I absolutely love this country, because, that's the only, I think that's unique about the Irish. The word handicap, it's not even a nice word anymore. I don't get too hung up on words, because people can say the most horrible words but mean it really well, and it's not really communication. People can say the nicest words but not be sincere, and that's even worse. There's a friend of mine, and she sent me an article, the one by Brendan O'Connor, There's Something About Mary, and she said, read this. So I read that article, and it was great, because it was like a roadmap for what I was about to go through. And he said, you meet three types of people. You meet the nice, well-meaning, but stupid people, and they'll just kind of like make a mess of it, They'll mean well, but they'll say silly things. You'll meet absolutely amazing people who'll just know the right thing to say, and they'll have a lot of compassion and empathy, and they won't say too much, and they'll be great. And then you meet evil people, and they'll say evil things. And I say, who'll say evil things? Nobody would say that. But the fact is, I actually met those three types. And, people said different things, and they said things as well that were actually very hurtful, without meaning to. You have to try and have the emotional intelligence to look behind about what they meant, not what they said. But I remember one friend of mine, he's like, how's everything? And I actually sent him a message going, little Isabella was born, 29th of July, Mother doing well, Isabella doing better, couple of complications. She's been diagnosed with Down syndrome. It's not going to make us love her anymore less. It'll probably make us love her a lot more. He said to me afterwards that brought a tear to his eye. When we were in the private room in the hospital, and the nurse came in, and I think it was the day after Isabella was born, and myself and Paula were obviously in a bit of shock, and Isabella was in the intensive care unit, and a nurse came in, and she's very nice, very quite chatty, bubbly. And I kind of was talking about Isabella, and I said the words, "My Down syndrome baby," and she goes, "Aaron." Now remember, Isabella was like 12 hours old at that stage, I'd say, or less. She goes, "It's not your Down syndrome baby. It's your daughter. Her name is Isabella, and she happens to have Down syndrome." Those few words mean so much, because it's a shift in mindset. It's Isabella Alexandra O'Grady, who is a wonderful, joyful, naughty, clever little girl who is both funny, independent, and very much a character. And she just happens to have Down syndrome. So it's the person first and the condition second. And the condition doesn't define you, doesn't define her, doesn't define anybody with Down syndrome, any condition. And that's a world that if you haven't been in it, you have to kind of readjust your mindset to get inside. That, like, the people with any kind of disability or condition or whatever, they're people first. And that is an extremely important outlook and view and mindset to take. That you see the person first. You get to know the person, whatever they've got. And people underestimate the potential of people with Down syndrome, people with autism, people with all kinds of conditions. Remember one person in particular said a very inappropriate we were all kind of joking a little bit, and they just said something really inappropriate. And I kind of like half laughed, half went, "Did you actually just say that?" And they're like, oh, no, I didn't say that. And I was like, "I can't believe you just said that." And I half threatened to break their legs and burn the place down. But I just let it go. And the next day I sent them an email, and I said to them, your comments were extremely inappropriate. And even though they were said in a joking manner, this is no joke, because it actually reveals and opens up and has allowed me to see your mindset, and how you spoke about somebody with, Down syndrome or any condition whatsoever of that matter was really wrong. And you have let yourself down. And I suggest that you look up Down syndrome Ireland, when I sent a link, and you'll see the campaign at the minute, and it's all about respect. It's all about respecting people that are different, respecting people with Down syndrome, respecting them for people first, the condition second. And as her father, I feel I have the responsibility to actually take you to task over this, because the prejudice you revealed is something that she will potentially have to see in her life and confront. And it's my responsibility to attack that and to defend her now. And she'll do it for herself when she's older. And then other people said other things that were hurtful. And obviously you are a little bit sensitive as well. But I tried to counter my sensitivity by, trying to be compassionate to their ignorance as well. And it's a bit of a struggle. Isabella started to go to her special, it's a centre she goes to called Oak Ridge, and it's a special needs centre where they do the program called Early Intervention, and you get to learn more about the condition. And she had to go through physiotherapy. She had a motor skill program. She had speech language therapy. All these different programs that they go through to kind of the idea is to stimulate children with, various conditions to kind of bring out the best potential in them. And we've been quite blessed because she has physically been very, very strong, very good. And she's done really, really well. She's actually never had an antibiotic because Pell has always put her on health food, organic food, homeopathic medicine. We've been on a journey, like every parent's on a journey, getting to know their child, and every child has challenges. There's no perfect child out there. Every child has challenges. People with Down syndrome have their challenges. And within the world of Down syndrome, there's a big spectrum. So some children have severe physical challenges, but maybe cognitively they're doing great. Vice versa, cognitively they're fine, but they might have physical challenges. Like 50% of the children with Down have to have a hole in their heart and they have to have a heart operation. Fortunately, Isabella didn't have to go through that. The food is such an integral part of the recovery of anybody who's got ill health or complicated health, we'll call it. Because Pell always had an interest in natural, and so did I. I grew up on health food. Like my father was making soya milk from soybeans 40 years ago. I realised I probably had to think about it a bit more and not just kind of repress it and kind of deal with it and face up to it. And, because I had been dealing with it by going, everything's great. It's just great. It's all going to be amazing. And there's no negativities here. All good. Which is a way to deal with it. So I just have this kind of, don't give me the bad news. I just want to hear good news. So I just went on this kind of process of kind of it's all going to be fine. It's all going to be great. Where Isabella's amazing. It's just great, 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 great. But the facts are that there are serious challenges, and there are serious challenges when you have Down syndrome. It's an extra chromosome in your body, in your genes, in your cells that can cause major, major issues cognitively and physically. Isabella actually progressed very well physically. She actually didn't fall behind that much. She hit all of her milestones there or thereabouts, a little bit late. Like she was walking at 19 months, which is very good for a child with Downs. Sometimes children with Downs don't walk till they're 4, 5, so she actually physically, and that was thanks to Pell. I mean, I remember she used to have her on the stairs every day, up and down those stairs, a few bit, getting her to crawl and getting her to strengthen, her muscle tone, and a lot of physio work. And she had this little kind of walker thing that she used to use walking around. And cognitively, she was falling behind, but, we had have such hope, and, she's really, really going to hit her potential. She's going to have a challenge to get there. But the point is, myself personally, I was like, it's all going to be great. Let's rock on. But sometimes you have to just stop and you kind of have to go, you know what, this is actually difficult. And you have to say to yourself, you have to recognize the challenge that it is rather than just plowing on. You have to recognize the challenge it is for yourself, mentally, how it is for my wife, emotionally, mentally, physically. There's a lot of extra work. Thankfully, Paola was able to focus solely on Isabella because we don't have other children, so there wasn't as many distractions that way, and she was a stay-at-home mother. And she was able to give Isabella total undivided attention. But the process of how I felt about it was that almost every 8-9 months, maybe a year, I'll go through a period where I'm just kind of struggling to kind of deal with the fact that she's got this extra chromosome that's making her life a bit more difficult. And before I used to suppress it and repress it, even after the situation, I kept on doing it, But now I think I'm a little bit more, no, you know what, just give yourself the time to kind of just deal with this and digest it. And I'm not the type to go, oh, poor me, why us, I don't subscribe to that. you get what you're given, and you do your best. It's just everywhere she goes, people just love her. Even all the other kids, and we have a good, mix of kids. And I used to, in our social network, and we used to, all the kids would follow her. And I said to Pella, like, do you think their mom and dad are kind of saying, oh, play with Isabella because she's got special needs? Or and Pella said, like, kids don't do what they're told. Like, they're being with Isabella because she's so funny. And she's happy, and she's, good crack. And she has her own kind of charm and charisma, and she's quite independent. So if the kids don't play with her, she just like whatever. She just moves on to the next. She's quite, a little boss, and she kind of walks like that. She actually walks like a boss. There are still challenges. There are still challenges, like when she's. I remember a couple of the things that kind of struck me when she was born. I've already mentioned about who will look after her when I'm old. I had to go through the process. Is she going to be okay? What's going to happen to her? I think what every parent goes through, but particularly with, Down syndrome. Will she be able to cope? Will she be in independent living? Early indications were that she is, and she showed from an early age that she had the potential to have a very independent life and her own life, and wouldn't need maybe some of the extra care that some people need. But there's still a long way to go. I mean, she's only 4.5. But these questions and these challenges are constantly there, and I was just trying to bash through them like I was going through a ruck. But you have to sometimes stop and go, like, acknowledge them maybe. It's been easy in one way because she's so much fun, but it's not easy in another way because I'm worried about her. I'm worried about her future. I'm worried she'll be okay. I even used to think like the conversation I'll have when she's 13 or 14, or maybe even younger, maybe when she's 10, and she goes, why have I got Down syndrome? Why did that happen to me? Or she's, like even any teenager goes through, am I okay, Daddy? And was, especially girls, they go through a lot of emotional turmoil. And it's a very, very, that adolescent age is obviously a very, delicate time for girls. And maybe it'll be a little bit extra complicated for her. I actually used to go for lunch right beside where Down Syndrome's Ireland HQ was. So I actually became friendly with one of the fundraisers there. And she was running the fashion show, and she asked me, would Isabella be involved? And Isabella was 2. And I said, I think she's a bit young. To go on this catwalk model and walk back down and model her clothes. I think she's a bit young. Oh, no, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. So we went to a few rehearsals, and Isabella was just playing with all the other kids, and it was really nice, and there was great atmosphere. And what happened was we had one or two friends. You buy the tickets, and people go to the show. I didn't really know what to expect. There was about, I'd say, 30 kids that went to this thing, and there was a big long catwalk in the Radisson in Stillorgan. And the kids had to walk all the way down the catwalk, do their little twirl, and walk all the way back. And they had a music DJ, and there was quite a few people. There was a couple of hundred people there, maybe 500 or 600 people. And Isabella walked out in this beautiful little pink dress. And Paola walked out, and they both looked amazing. And they walked out to the end. And everybody was screaming and shouting and clapping, And she actually opened the show. And she walked down, and everybody's screaming. She's like walking around. What the hell? What's going on here? She did a little twirl, and she's kind of getting into it. And as she's walking halfway back, she just stops, turns around, and starts clapping with everybody, and actually tries to run back to the front because now she's like totally adjusted and she's into it. And the whole place erupted laughing because she was like, clapping at them, clapping at her, and. I remember actually when I seen that moment, I thought, I brought a tear to my eye. I was just like, oh my God, she's so gorgeous. And I thought, at that moment, she's going to be great. She's going to actually have an amazing life. She is funny. independent, and bossy. And she really is like a little character. She gets on a plane, for instance, just as one of her little things. And she will get on the plane and she will have to tap everybody on the knee before she goes to the next row. And they'll be like, ah, you know, if they acknowledge her, she'll walk on to the next one. If they don't, she'll be like, and she does that quite regularly because she's very social. And Pella behind her with the bags like, yo, come on, Isabella, move. And, you know. So she is a real funny little character. And she still has challenges with her speech. So she can't really speak that clearly yet. But she understands it pretty much, you know, not everything, but she has a good understanding. At times, it's frustrating for her. I don't. Now and again, maybe I feel a bit frustrated, but not really for us because we just love her so much that, you know, and it's Isabella. So she has all these word cards, and we have her on a program called Gemini, and it's all meant to help her to speak. She's the world's, or was the world's biggest Peppa Pig fan there ever was. And then one night, overnight, she just dumped Peppa Pig for Paw Patrol. And now she can use signs, so she uses a bit of sign language. Pella will say to her, okay, she knows she wants to see Paw Patrol, so she'll try and get her to say it, and she'll go, I, and she goes, want, and she can't say Paw Patrol, so she kind of shakes her head and goes, a troll, like this. And she's making such an effort to say it, you know. She's actually so funny as she says it, a troll. And even though she can't speak clearly, she communicates. I know exactly what she wants. She tells me with her eyes and physically shows me what she wants me to do. And she becomes irate for about 3 seconds, and then she goes back into good humour. So she's a very, very good child. She's a blessing, and she's very, very happy, joyful, and her joy is contagious because I cannot be in a bad humour and she's laughing and smiling and hugging me. Just like, you know, it goes away. So if I focus on her and how happy she is and how wonderful she sees life and how much she's enjoying being alive, and I kind of try and not focus on all the worry and all the negatives and all those things, but yet still have them there because obviously there's things you need to be dealing with, and I enjoy the moment with her, then, you know, that's actually a great way of dealing with her challenges. And we're fortunate to be able to do that because there's some children that are so sick and they're so under so much pressure that those little moments are not as regular for them and for their parents. So I would suggest and I would say to parents out there that really try and enjoy those moments because and try and stop worrying so much about the future. Because even though I was like, it's all going to be fine, everything's going to be great, underneath I was like, yo, really worrying. I tried to just kind of not repress it, but just let it go. You can't repress something, it'll always come out. Just kind of let it go and just enjoy them. And as Paola said to me, you know, she goes, Aaron, she's happy. She's very happy. She's happy with life. She loves us. She is loved by us. She's loved by her friends. She's loved by her extended family. If what you want from your child is that they're happy, well, she's very happy. And I just hope that I continue that she is that way. And that's what I would say is that if their parents are happy, the child usually will be happy. Almost to try and, without being superficial, but get lost in those joyful moments and cherish them and magnify them and encourage them and, you know, look on the bright side of life. I actually made a little video and it was called Lessons I've Learned from Isabella. And it was just like about 7 or 8 videos, little videos of her, of how she gets through the day and what she gets up to between robbing chips or trying to break into ice cream stores or dancing to music on the side of the street or, just things kids do. And, she just, she loves life. And maybe there's a lot more we can learn from children, without sounding like a Whitney Houston song.